Alright, here's a quick video about reloading metallic cartridges. In this case, it's a straight-walled pistol cartridge for 45 ACP. I have some coins here for size references. These are some of the loaded rounds. One of these is a commercial round, other two I loaded. And if you notice, one is a full metal jacket, hollow point with the metal jacket, and a plated hollow point. Coming back this way are some fired rounds. This one has showing the primer depressed, obviously shot. There's some soot inside, and that's the primer removed. I'll show you how to remove the primer in the punch press. After that, I put it through a cleaning process. It comes out looking neat and clean like this. And if I were to show you, the inside of the shell is also very clean. And there it is. So once they're cleaned out, it's necessary to clean just to be able to inspect the shell very well, and also makes it look better, I guess. Anyway, these have new primers already punched in. I will show you in a minute how to do that. That's a full loaded round, and there is a round gauge mainly to test your rounds to make sure they will chamber properly in a particular caliber. This is a 45 round, that's a 45 gauge. You drop it in, and as long as it's flush with the back, you're in good shape. That means you loaded it right. The case length and everything is okay. Another component I need is sizing wax. There's got some powder pollution on it, but doesn't matter. This is a sizing wax that the press needs, otherwise your cases get stuck in it. I'm gonna load using long shot powder. That's the particular powder suitable for the load I'm trying to load this time. This is an unnecessary 38 special sitting here, which I'll put away now. Going to the right, there is a tool I can use to chamfer and to trim the edges of the case. Not going to use it today. Just a bag full of about 500 shells, 45, after my cleaning process, ready for loading. Going to the right here, this is my Hornady press. The press has a base that turns every time I pull this handle. I pull the handle, the base rises and goes all the way to the top. And if there were dies here, it would meet that and come down, and it rotates again. Right now, the press contains a gunpowder measuring system, and it has a bullet dispenser, but all the other dies are in my die box. Coming back this way, those are the dies I'm going to use. Hornady makes good dies. I prefer Lee dies. Lee is a different brand. These are necessary to get the bullet seated the right way and to crimp the case properly, and also to deprime. So let's open this. That's what dies look like. This is the depriming die. I'm gonna pick it up, put it there. It goes down and then lock. It just takes a half a turn or a quarter turn to lock it. That's unlock and remove, and that's lock, down and lock. That's for depriming and resizing the case. Main reason you resize the case is if you come back down to a fired case and I take a new bullet that would have normally gone fit tight into the case, and you put it in there, it doesn't. Actually, in most cases, it'll fall right in. In this particular case situation, this ammunition was probably fired through a new gun, and so it's not going to fall through. And let me try this one. Most of the times it'll just go far too deep, and that that needs to be resized. Anyway, so pausing for a second, actually I'm going to turn around. Before you go about resizing anything, you have to know through a use of a good hand manual, like this one I'm using currently is printed by Lyman, and the Lyman manual has loading information for a very large amount of different types of calibers. Right now I'm going to load 45. I'm going to check some dimensions here, make sure that my case length and everything is okay. Then I read up, find the kind of bullet I plan to load, consult the table, choose a type of powder that I think is best suited for what I plan to do, the velocity I want to get, the pressures I don't want to get to, or make a decision based on that. And I can cover that in a different video to see why we choose one powder over the other. I also keep very good notes of my other loads and tests, so I can go to my load information from previous times and see what I last did and what my notes were about that round. For example, this particular one was performing a little bit faster than expected, and I have notes about how to correct that next time. Too much faster is no good. That means your gun's gonna blow up if you're not careful. But anyway, back at the press, I have, like I showed you before, the sizing die and the depriming die. I have the gunpowder dispenser, which will be full of powder at some point. I have a bullet dispenser. This long tube right here dispenses bullets. I will put them in from the top like that. It doesn't fall through. Only when the case comes up it'll fall through. I'm going to lock this to make sure it is snug. Then I choose my seating die. This die is adjusted to how deep the bullet will be. If you don't listen to anything else in this video, remember that if a bullet gets pushed any further than what the manufacturer intended, you end up with a very, very dangerous situation. That generates an extremely high pressure. It can easily blow up your gun, depending on the powder you use. This last die looks like it's hollow, but it does fix the problem. It actually untapers the round and crimps it. Just by its very slight tapered shape internally. So here we are, all the dies are in place, and I'm just going to run through a dirty shell that will be deprimed and primed and filled with powder in one go. Here I've added some powder to the powder dispenser. I've measured how much it throws and I've made a note of it so I don't make a mistake later. Follow my recipe. And let's pick up a shell, even though it's dirty and not cleaned yet. I'm going to deprime this for you. So it goes into the thing. It just goes in like that and sits there. And let's see if I can use the other hand and do this. Pull the lever, it goes up into there we go. It was slightly crooked, but it's going to go in, and the primer falls through that tube, and when I pull the handle back up, out comes a resized shell. Now it has been sized to what the factory dimension is. As it moves to the next spot, that's where it gets the primer, and the primer is already waiting for it down there. There's a little primer right there, and I'm going to put the shell back in. The shell's back in, and here's my handle, and if I just push this handle, it pushes the primer up. You don't see anything happening, and the primer goes in. Actually, I decided to change the shell because I don't want to load the dirty one. I put a new shell in there to load the primer, and I pushed the handle pretty hard, and the primer has gone in. Take a look. That is the primer already seated. Now we just leave it back in there. Normally you would not be removing it, I'm just showing everybody. So now I pull the handle and it moves to the next spot and goes up to meet the powder dispenser. There it is. Let's go back down. So it's going to go into the powder dispenser, and it also flares the mouth of the cartridge to accept the next bullet. Going in, powder dispenser dispenses the powder, and coming back down, now we have a very, very precise amount of powder already in the case. Let's see if I can show you. There you go. That is a very precise amount. Any more will cause dangerous pressure, and any less could result in the bullet never leaving your gun. So going back to pulling it again, it moves to the next house, and it comes and meets the bullet dispenser. And on its way down, it's got a bullet in place. It's not seated fully, it's just sitting there. Now, at the next round, when I pull up, it goes into the seating die, which then pushes. Well, notice the bullet sticking up. Let me go down a little bit, get it into focus so you can actually see it. So, whoops, I need to go back one house. So here we are. Now going up. And now this die is set to achieve a very specific bullet depth according to the recipe in the book. I push it all the way. When it comes back down, the bullet is seated exactly where the recipe calls for. And it moves. And now I'm going into the final crimp. So it closes the bell that it created on the case. And it's in there, nothing much to see there. When it comes back out, this is a finished round. And it falls there. That round you can put into a gun and fire right now. One of these I just made. I guess you can tell which one is this. Anyway, hope you liked it. That's how you do it. That's the press. And I have a bit of mess in my shop on the other side. And this press is for 12 gauge. That's for shotgun shells, but I'm just using it for storage area and junk right now. All right, cool.